Hello and welcome to another great episode of the Father and Son Pastime Podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin. How are you?
That's my dad. Dad, our favorite day of the year is finally here.
Yes.
The day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, if you will. But for us, it's podcast day. We'll have like 7 or 8 episodes recorded today. We're going to get real loopy. This is our first one, so this will probably be our best one. But other than that, we're just going to keep on rocking. We'll have a couple breaks here and there. But it is our favorite day. We look at not just, it started, this is where 5 years ago, Dad, this was our first episode, 5 years.
Wow.
Today's our 5-year anniversary.
And before then, we did it without any computers.
Correct. Before we even had a podcast, we would just guess from MLB Trade Rumors list of top 50 free agents.
Yeah.
So it's evolved into a simple, what do we do after the day of Thanksgiving? We're not shoppers. Let's talk about baseball.
Yeah.
Let's dive deeper into what these teams need. Let's try to make better educated guests. Hey, we're doing okay with these guesses. And since we obviously have gone to the podcast, we've done horrible with the guesses. So we're still trying after 5 years. I don't think I have been above 10 correct.
I don't think I have either.
Since back in the day, we were getting like 11, 12, 13, which doesn't sound great, I know, but it was pretty good. So what we do first, folks, if you're new to us here on this channel, first, thanks for finding us somehow and not being a subscriber. Please subscribe at pastime_podcast on all our socials. At Pastime Podcast _. See, I'm already loopy in the first episode.
You're pre-loopy.
Yes, pre-loopy. But we do an off-season outlook, very similar to what MLB Trade Rumors does, but we don't have a paywall behind us. And what we do is we look at each division, so AL East, Central West, NL East, Central West, kind of look at who they lost, what do they need, how much money they have to spend to address those needs. We'll give maybe hints or something like that, but we don't make our outright predictions. That is a later episode. So if you'd rather have those, either wait for those to be posted. But again, if you're a big follower of the Red Sox, of the Orioles, of the Cubs, just tune into those episodes and see if you agree with our picks. If not, again, debate with us in the comments. That's totally fine. We're probably wrong on a lot of our future picks, but I think we'll do a pretty good job of analysis on what your team needs.
We're entertaining.
We try to be. And maybe what they don't need. Maybe if your team's going to be trading some people away, they don't need this person anymore. That'll be addressed as well.
And winter meetings are only a week away.
Yes, we love doing this, obviously, before what feels like a kickoff. We've done this, obviously, a few times, Dad, where, teams have got aggressive right after the World Series, and 10 people have signed, which has helped us in a way. I think this is a pretty average year. We'll get to, obviously, that top 50 later on today. But 3 of the top 50 free agents have signed. That's kind of an average or even below average year at this time. So we have some replacements that we'll talk about once that episode starts.
I have read that during the winter meetings, a couple of the big guys will sign to make the winter meetings more headline-oriented. So I'm thinking between now and December 15th, you'll see a lot of free agents come off the board.
Dad, we're going to start with the AL East officially. Thank you for those 3 minutes intro, but we've set you up for, obviously, all our podcasts now. Again, subscribe. Talk about the AL East first, Dad. 2 playoff teams came out of this division last year, and the World Series losers, the New York Yankees, that's who we'll start with first. Dad, they have some of the biggest glaring holes that we'll talk about throughout the day.
Yeah.
I'll do the full recap. Some of these are obviously the easy names, such as Juan Soto, but we'll also talk about like Jonathan Loáisiga as a loss too. So Juan Soto, who they traded for last offseason, they had a full year of. Great trade for them, obviously, because they got him to the World Series.
Yeah.
It just didn't win him the World Series because Anthony Rizzo, another loss, didn't cover first base. There was other reasons they lost the World Series. I'm not just blaming it all on Rizzo. They also lost Gleyber Torres, Dad, Alex Verdugo, Clay Holmes, Tommy Kahnle, Lou Trevino, Tim Hill, and Jonathan Loáisiga. We include the non-tenders in here as well, folks.
You know what? This is a team to watch during the offseason because I think it's a domino effect. Mm-hmm. If Soto goes to another team, then they really need to react. That's when the Yankees will have to really be creative in replacing a huge part of their offense. So talk about domino effect, depending on what he does, really dictates almost 10, 15 free agents on where they go. But the Yankees are like, what do we do? Replace the offense and the defense at in right field, which in Yankee Stadium is a vital position.
Yeah, Juan Soto is obviously the number one free agent available both in age, both in talent. We just did a future Hall of Fame draft. Obviously, we both agree that Juan Soto is a future Hall of Famer. Very well on who he signs with in his next contract. We expect it to be obviously 12, 13, even 14 years in length. That's who he'll probably go into Cooperstown wearing.
Yes.
So there's a lot at stake here. It's tens of millions, hundreds of millions, if you want to look at all the years that he'll get in total. Very few people will be able to afford him. But I think it's fair to say that the Yankees have two plans. With Juan Soto, without Juan Soto.
True.
And with Juan Soto, they really don't have that much to spend past him. Depending on how much, obviously, ownership and the GM is willing to spend, cash and Steinbrenner, I look at the Yankees as being able to spend $60 to $70 million this offseason. That is probably Soto and some filler holes. No stars if they get Soto. The reason I've kind of come up with this is from looking at stuff. They have a lot of contracts on the board. I mean, you have Judge, you have Cole, you have Stanton. That's only 3 players. You're gonna. You have Rodon. He gets paid. Stroman has some money, and they have just other holes to fill.
Yeah.
I know Yankee fans don't want to hear this. Obviously, if you get Soto, I think you still have to trade some other names in order to acquire. Whether that's Spencer Jones as a high outfield prospect. I think if you sign Soto, Spencer Jones has got to get traded. Again, that's Dominguez, Judge, and Soto for a decade, hopefully.
Dominguez is not a great outfielder.
I think he's still young, and I think
Yeah.
he could develop. But I think
He's got a bat.
without Stanton's not going to play the outfield, and without that, you have to kind of trade. You have to. I think you should keep Jason Dominguez, but I think it's trade Spencer Jones for filling the holes in the bullpen.
Yeah.
Dad, they need a lot.
They really do. I mean, first base is a glaring position. Second base, if Torres goes, which it probably will. Don't forget, he was the leadoff guy as well.
For some time, yeah.
You're right. So I'm thinking, if you really looked at the first 5 guys in the Yankees order, that's where they did the damage.
Yep.
So
and then nothing in the back end.
So if you take away the leadoff hitter and the number 3 hitter, that's huge in that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's huge. And then a big hole in the outfield. They're still not settled in left field, and they're losing at least 2 to 3 good relief pitchers. So their bullpen's in disarray, and they probably could use another starter. So they do have some glaring holes.
I would say, it sounds weird to say, but as of now, if rosters were set and opening day starts, the Yankees are the worst fitted team because they have so many holes in the AL East. Dad, they need defense. I mean, absolutely. That was paramount in multiple errors in the Dodgers just outright coming and say, hey, put it in play. They're going to make mistakes. Heck of a thing to learn as a World Series contending team that your competition is just saying, just hit it on the ground. They suck. They're basically a little league team out there that can't cover a first base. So, hey, Mookie Betts, you'll beat them to the bag. You're right, Dad. They need an outfielder. I think it depends. I didn't say specifically left, center, or right. Obviously, Judge can play center or a corner. Dominguez can play a corner. So if they got a really good center fielder, if they got people can shift around.
Right.
You're right. They need a first baseman. I think Ben Rice or DJ LeMahieu are kind of like the in-house options right now. I don't think Yankee fans like that.
No.
I put second base / third base. I think Jazz Chisholm should play second base again. He could play center too. There's some maneuverability with Jazz. I don't think he looked a little lost out there playing third. I know he'd never played third before, but I think taking him back to play second makes a little bit more sense to me, and then they can go out and get a third baseman. And then you're right, Dad, absolutely bullpen depth from a true closer. I liked Weaver. I don't know if that's his permanent spot, being either a setup guy or a closer for the Yankees moving forward, but they need some support and depth in their bullpen.
You're right on with everything you said. It's a little scary to be in New York and have that, and they still need to win the battle of New York between them and the Mets. So I think they need to go to work, and I'm sure they like you said, they got an A plan and a B plan, and they need to react quickly to fill the holes and everything else, because I think other people in the division are going to work hard to try to catch up.
Mm-hmm. Dad, I want to move on to the Red Sox. I'm not going to move in standing order here. I'm kind of going to move on into activity order almost, at least what I think might happen. I think the Red Sox are poised for an active offseason. Excuse me. I just don't know which direction it'll be. There's already some trade rumors, and there is money available. This is slowly getting away from the Heim Bloom era and entering a former Red Sox pitcher era. So hopefully there's
Very good GM, by the way.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Yeah,
Time will tell.
He was golden with the Cubs.
They won more. Games this year than I expected.
With all the injuries.
There was definitely some injuries. I think Trevor Story may go down as one of the worst signings ever for the Red Sox. But let's recap. Kenley Jansen is finally retired. That's not an immediate hole because, again, they signed Liam Hendricks, who was out all last season with an injury. He should be back. And speaking of injuries coming back, Lucas Giolito should come back, if not to start the year, maybe like May from Tommy John. Nick Pivetta did not take the qualifying offer, so he's gone. James Paxton retired finally. Tyler O'Neill, a lot of home runs out of him. He's gone. Danny Jansen, a midseason catcher pickup. He's gone. Chris Martin, a pretty stable bullpen piece, is gone. And finally, Bobby Dahlbeck is out of the Red Sox organization, even though I've been trying to get him traded. Probably since the origin of this podcast, I never saw a future in him, and he just naturally aged out of the organization. Dad, I think like the Yankees, the Red Sox have about 60 to 70 million to spend. I just don't know if they spend it.
I think they look at the starting staff. I think a big piece of the money might go for pitching. But again, I think there's some holes in the bullpen as well. But I think they're going to be really focused on pitching, reliable starters, and then probably at least 2 relief pitchers. Martin did a good job. He's been a good relief pitcher for years. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to miss him. Jensen didn't do much when he got acquired, and they do have some good catching. So I think, again, with the new GM, I think he's been given the go-ahead to spend some money and make some acquisitions. Red Sox will be better next year.
Oh, I hope that they're better next year with Breslow making some good decisions. I look at their rotation and I also see some holes. I wrote 1 or 2 starters. It seems to me they have 5 number 3 starters on this team.
Which is not good.
It's average.
Yeah.
It's very average from a team that finished 500, basically.
Yeah. Exactly 500, by the way.
There you go. Them and the Rays, right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of flexibility with those 3 starters. Whitlock and Houck can obviously be like long relievers. I really have always been a fan of Whitlock being a closer, but obviously with Hendricks here, that's not really probably a thing. Giolito I never thought of as an ace. This time last year, Chris Sale got traded, became the Cy Young winner in the NL this year. So the Red Sox make a lot of bad moves with pitching lately. The last arguably good decision they did was trading for Chris Sale from the White Sox, and I know that they're linked still, and they really do line up well with Garrett Crochet with the White Sox. Now there is a lot of moving parts here. I think if I was the Red Sox, looking at this rotation, you need a lefty. You need a strong lefty starter. Snell's off the board. I think even before Snell was signed, I had Max Fried, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery as a trade candidate, and Garrett Crochet as sort of the 4 left-handed options. Jordan Montgomery would be the easiest to acquire. The Red Sox would just have to pay him. Diamondbacks want him gone. Crochet would be the hardest to acquire because he's obviously the cheapest out of those options.
And everybody's going to be after him.
Right. I personally don't want them to trade for Crochet. I think there's a lot of, is he the next Chris Sale? He was a reliever too, and then became this great starter. I don't know if lightning strikes twice with the Red White Sox trade. But yeah, so that's some issues. I think they need a backup catcher. Right now it's just Wong, and maybe something's Wong behind catcher with only one person catching. And again, bullpen depth without having Chris Martin. Again, maybe that's shifting some of these starters to the bullpen. That kind of solves that problem. But if they somehow don't sign a starter, then they need to sign a reliever. Maybe both still, but
they're going to miss O'Neill because he did really well with giving a little extra power with the Red Sox.
30 home runs.
You miss that, and I think he'll end up outside of Boston. But again, you got to replace those home runs, which really helped the Red Sox maintain a winning record through some and most of the year. So depending on what happens there, they need a little bit of power hitting outfielders. My opinion.
I like their outfield. Again, they could need a power hitting outfielder. So Rafaela is an outfielder that played a lot of shortstop last year with an injured Trevor Story. Story could move to second. Rafaela could move in, and then you have a hole in the outfield. I think the hole that will be addressed is more of a second base. To me, there's been a hole at second base since Pedroia retired. So I don't know if they're looking for something long-term there, a free agent, trading for somebody that's available. But I like Rafaela, Duran, and Abreu in the outfield. While Abreu had some Rookie of the Year votes, kind of like what Yoshida did in a previous year.
And a strong outfielder, too.
Yeah, I mean, Duran had MVP votes. So, I mean, it's very... I think it's a quality outfield if healthy. I think some of the rumors that scare me is moving Devers to first, and then they're possibly dangling Casas out there, which obviously gives White Sox vibes. They don't have a first baseman right now. That's all rumors. Rafael Devers' agent said he's staying at third base. What are you talking about? He's a young third baseman by all accounts. So yeah, Red Sox could do dramatic shakeups this offseason, or they could kind of just plug holes through free agency. And kind of this is Breslow's first challenge. Are we a trading team or are we a free agent team? Are we a big spender? So yeah, I don't know which direction. I don't have any evidence to kind of prove my thoughts.
I think, what Craig is thinking about is that, the Red Sox have finished bad year in the middle of the pack. The Red Sox fans are getting a little antsy. They want them to move up in the standings. They don't want 500. They want better. I think there's going to be a little bit of pressure to add and compete for that crown, especially if the Yankees lose and don't re-sign superstars. That first, second place in that division is wide open. So I think they're going to be moving up to try to acquire some help to be, an 85 to 90 win team.
I really do wonder if the Red Sox also have like a Soto, because they've been in rumors too. I don't think they'll sign him. But they've been in, like, do we have a New York Soto plan A and do we have a no Soto plan?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it necessarily means, Yankees signed Soto, there's no future for us. It just may make the Red Sox do different moves. That's all I'm saying. Compete differently. Find pitchers that pitch well against Soto, and if Soto goes to a different team or, out of the AL East, then they can just compete, I think they have to have those conversations. Hey, we're going to face this Juan Soto character for 14 years, possibly. Here are three bullpen arms, one starter that has really great numbers against Juan Soto. I think that's had to be a conversation in a organization like the Red Sox.
Yeah. And you make a good point. A strong left-handed starter is probably paramount. So
regardless,
good
they
point.
just need it.
Yeah.
Dad, speaking of big losses, you talk about Tyler O'Neill. I want to talk about Anthony Santander as we move to Baltimore. A better power hitter, a switch hitter, leaves the organization after, I think his whole life he's been in Baltimore. I don't know if he started earlier.
He was a Rule 5 draft.
Rule 5 draft. So mostly the Orioles league professionally.
Yeah.
Well, the young upstart baby birds haven't really ever caught fire in their nest. They've only lost playoff games. They're giving Twins vibes that they haven't won a playoff game in over a decade now. Corbin Burns is also gone, just like the Yankees going out and get a 1-year Soto. The Orioles got a 1-year Corbin Burns. I think it's very bleak that Corbin resigns in Baltimore. They also non-tendered Jacob Webb. They released Craig Kimbrell before the season ended. John Means, again, he had a great promise, but then again kind of floundered.
2 Tommy Johns.
Yeah, it's tough. James McCann, Mr. Tough Guy, is a free agent, and I think every team would benefit to have him. They let go of Danny Colombe, Bruce Zimmerman, Eloy Jimenez, still a great bat. Austin Slater's already signed with somebody else, so he's not coming to the team. Good luck in Chicago, buddy. And Cole Irvin, again, never found really his footing after coming in a trade from Oakland. Dad, I look at this team, and technically they could spend to the $200 million. They technically could. They're not going to go from a poor team to a Yankee payroll that fast. I only expect the Orioles to spend $30 to $50 million this year in the open market. Thoughts? Do you disagree?
No. Great thoughts. Great metaphors, by the way. So far, you've come up with two dandies.
I've just been riffing. I'm here all day.
Yeah. You're doing well. I'm with you 100%. They're starting pitching. A couple guys come back from Tommy John at midseason, but that's midseason.
Yeah.
So that was
Radish.
correct. That scares me as well. And Means if he comes back,
Means it's gone.
they let him go. Okay.
Free agent, naturally.
Yeah. Batista is a question mark. Big relief pitcher come back. Will he be as strong as he was 2 years ago? There are a lot of questions. Starting pitching is huge. I think they got to add 2 starting pitching. Bullpen is still, they got to, I think, another left-handed reliever. And then right field. What do you do with right field? And then during the playoffs, people said they need a veteran bat off the bench because the young guys really, semi-choked during the playoffs. And they said if we had a veteran on the bench filling in, and as being, a good DH and everything else, that would help. So we got starting pitching, bullpen, right field wide open, and bench. That's a lot of openings. So I think they're going to be kind of like the Chicago Cubs and spend a little bit of money and hope it patches the holes, and hope their young people, get better. But they're going to, put Kobe Mayo in right field, which may or may not work out.
I look at the Orioles very similar to the Red Sox. The Orioles don't have a different GM. They have a different owner. The Red Sox have a different general manager. But they're both trying to make their names for themselves, and they have a little bit of unproven or unpredictability. They don't know which way, fans don't know which way their new GM or their new owner is going to go. I think there's some pressure from Baltimore fans to be different than Peter Angelos. I don't know how different that looks. The Orioles still have a ton of trade bait. Whether that's almost old timers at this point, Urias and Mateo, they are, Urias had a gold glove. Is it too soon to cash in chips on Jackson Holiday? Is Kobe Mayo an option, or is Ryan Mountcastle an option, and let Mayo be first base? Do we trust Kjerstad to run right field? My dad said there's kind of a hole there. There's definitely an offensive hole. I think as of right now, the Orioles think it's going to be Kjerstad, Mullins, and Cowser. Do you remember when there was like a log jam not too long ago in the Orioles thing? Now it feels a little holy with some early departures.
Little trades, too.
Westbrook should be back. Again, can play second or third, it looks like.
Yeah.
If Adley can get back to an offensive Adley, kind of like a 2023 Adley, I think the team could be better. But there was a little bit of slump to this team, a little lack of pop, like you said, Dad. So I think there needs to be a jolt.
Like a J.D. Martinez, something like that?
I don't know if it's J.D. Martinez, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I would just said a jolt. I said they should actually deal from their pitching depth from unproven people like Povich and McDermott. Or even if Wells or Rogers have any value, to try to get something there. But I think their biggest clear need is a top-level starter and ace. Yep. Corbin Burns was great for them last year. They have, again, a lot of people like these 3 starters, like the Red Sox. They have Rodriguez, Suarez, Eflin, and Kramer. That does not strike fear into any team in baseball.
They don't have an ace.
Right. They don't have a put-away pitcher. And they have the money to go get one. I don't know who that'll be, and I don't know if they'll even get one. But I think it's almost like they can. Again, it could be a trade. It could be a free agent signing, but they're not a threat. Obviously the Orioles were a joke for the better part of a decade. The past 3 years, they've had some surprises. They've had some youth movements. They've made the playoffs, won the East 2 years ago. Last year they won a wild card. There should be some more mojo rising with the Red Sox and the Rays with a lot of help. We'll get to them in a second. A lot of pitchers coming back from injury. Who knows what the Blue Jays will be. The O's kind of have to do something or they're going to keep regressing kind of like they did this year and lose, I think, 10 or 12 less games.
Yeah.
You lose 10 or 12 less games this year, you're 500 out of the playoffs.
Yeah. They were over 100 victories last year and 2 years ago, and then last year was 91.
So there you go. So if you lose 10 more games, it's 81-81.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Orioles have been known to obviously be that one-run win team. They won a lot of stuff in the 10th innings. They kind of had those like fiery, cool comebacks. I just wonder how much of that was Burns and Santander.
Santander had a couple of those walk-offs.
Yeah. Dad, let's move to the Rays because I just mentioned them. Unless you have anything to say about the Orioles.
No, I just think this is a key year in their development. Will Elias get enough, power and confidence to make those moves? Because if not, if they stand pat, they're going to go downhill, like you mentioned. So that's two very big time players are losing. They got to replace them, and if they don't, they're going to go down. So your thoughts being a 500 team is probably right there. I did hear an interesting rumor about Holiday for Crochet, so that would be an interesting trade.
I also don't even know if the White Sox will trade Crochet.
Right.
They seem to want too much.
Yeah, they know it.
Yes. Then moving on to the Rays, we'll have two major league teams playing at minor league ballparks next year. And wasn't it so nice that the Yankees let the Rays use their facility for $15 million? I just want Soto money. So again, don't think the Yankees are generous letting the Rays use their stadium. They're cashing $15 million from the Rays.
Yeah, and still having their minor league team play there.
Dad, the Rays didn't lose much. They lost a catcher, Pinto, who wasn't really a great catcher. They technically traded Jose Siri, and they're still dealing with a Wander Franco nonsense, as he's now rearrested for having a gun in public. He's never coming back to baseball. But they have a lot of people coming back to their baseball team. It's just not Wander Franco. It is McClanahan. It is Rasmussen. It is Springs. They've had a healthy Boz. Obviously Bradley, Littell, Pepio. They're again, if all those guys can be healthy, which is rare, they'll have the best rotation in the AL East, if not the entire AL. So they, once again, may be a little feared. I just don't know how effective those pitchers will be at a minor league ballpark where balls typically fly out a little farther. We've seen that in COVID with the Buffalo Bison, a.k.a. the Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. There are some holes. I don't know exactly why they decided to trade Jose Siri. I don't think the trades are over with.
Yeah.
I won't sleep on this team. I did take the under on them last year, but I won't sleep on this team as not being a threat until they probably trade their whole rotation. So, Dad, do you have any other of their losses that I...
Outside the stadium, that was the biggest one. I think what they're banking on is all those people that they got in trades at midseason coming up and really filling in the roster. So they made some astute trades, got some talent. Hopefully that fills in the lineup. It's going to be a young team. But again, they're banking on a lot of kids and some magic of people coming back from injuries to compete again. But I'm just thinking, like you made a great point, playing in a minor league stadium, I just worry about the financials. They're not going to get that much, people through the turnstiles to pay their bills. Will they, at mid-season, sell off because they're losing so much money? Financially, I think it's a team to watch. So that's the biggest concern I have, is the income is not going to be as much as previous years, and that's not good for Tampa Bay.
I forgot that they had some non-tenders. A non-tender Colin Poche, Dylan Carlson, trade mid-year, Tyler Alexander, and everybody's favorite Dick Lovelady. I'm sorry, he goes by Richard.
Crafty left-hander.
Yeah, they need a lot of upgrades, Dad. I just don't know what they can afford. I don't expect them to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, they don't have it.
I thought, and again, I'm not trying, he's not a top 50 free agent, so I'm just going to say it. I think that Jason Hayward would be great there. Again, in a minor league ballpark, Jason Hayward can be defensively good and offensively good as well in his final year. Plus, I think it would get some fans to the stadium, kind of like a David Justice last year in Oakland back in 2002.
McCutchen.
I don't think McCutchen will sign.
No.
Yeah.
McCutchen come back to the Pirates.
Oh yeah.
Good PR
like
move.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think McCutchen would retire versus come to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
They could. I think Taylor Walls is their current, mark shortstop. I don't think he's long for it. I think they should trade Brandon Lowe. Lau, I don't know. They got Lowe's and Lau's on this team. I'm gonna go with. He's a Maryland guy.
Yeah.
And move Walls to second and maybe get a shortstop coming up. Whether that's Caminero, I don't know if he's more of a corner or second baseman. They have pieces to trade. Again, I don't know what they'll trade and what they'll turn into a 40 home run guy.
Interesting point. No one's brought this up. Tampa Bay will be playing outside in Tampa Bay during the summer with no dome, think of the heat and humidity going through June, July, and August. That's going to take its toll on that team.
Probably the pitching.
I'm just saying, no one's thinking of that, but they won't have the roof to protect them.
Yeah. Dad, the Toronto Blue Jays don't have too many losses. They got a lot of question marks, but Ryan Yarbrough obviously not coming back, more now a reliever. Another kind of more reliever, Paulo Espino, and Genesis Cabrera. So they lost some bullpen arms.
Did you mention Romano?
I have not. I was just to say they non-tendered Jordan Romano.
Good relief pitcher at one point.
So yeah, their big issues will be their bullpen. They did a lot of mid-season trades. So they really have a lot of rookies in some holes right now, whether that's Lou Profito, Clement, or Horwitz. Bowden Francis had a pretty decent half season, so I think he'll make the opening day roster as one of their starters to kind of replace Manoah as he recovers from Tommy John. What a kind of a letdown Alek Manoah has been. They're always going to be linked and rumored to people. I told them they have about $30 million to spend realistically. They could go crazy and spend more than that linked to Soto. I do think they need some offensive pop in that lineup, or it's mid-season trade conversations with Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero. And then the Jays get to be the worst team in AL for the AL East, at least for several years. So bullpen help, maybe a backup catcher, and a power bat.
I think they're going to make a blockbuster trade.
Who's going?
Vlad.
Really?
Yeah. I think he's in the last year of his contract.
Yeah, so is Bichette.
Yep. I don't think he wants to spend more time in Toronto.
He's from Canada. He was born there.
I think he wants out. I don't think he gets along with the management, and I think he could bring 3 players in return. I think that might be a blockbuster to look out for, but the Blue Jays will definitely try to improve from last year. Again, they're used to being in the fight of either 1, 2, or 3. For them to finish at the bottom did not sit well with folks. I think they'll be very aggressive this offseason, trades and free agents, and to fill up those holes. I think Blue Jays are going to be one of the top 5 teams for activity this year.
I'm the exact opposite. So Blue Jays fans, you tell me he's selling your team, so don't think active is good. I am keeping it together. You sign low-end people. Maybe your bat is, no offense, like a JD Martinez. Maybe it's like that person. And then if you're competitive mid-year, you trade and hope you can extend Bichette or Guerrero. And if you're not competitive, then your July 31st trade deadline is one or both of those guys. But I think people want to see, they want ticket sales, they want season tickets, they want this committed, because if you get rid of Bo and Vlad, or at least one of them, I think you lose a lot of interest in Toronto. So I don't think they do that over the offseason. I think they'll even tell people that Bichette and Vlad are not available. So I have them being actually one of the least active or least impact teams. So again, which one do you want? Least impact, kind of hold pat, fill some basic holes, major moves, but it's selling the team. So we'll very opposite on that. So we'll see. I mean, that means that probably is helpful for both of our free agent predictions. It means we really didn't think they'd get a high end person.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dad, that's the AL. We have some similarities, or some, I guess, predictions on the outlooks, and we have some stark differences. Who knows what some of these teams will do? It's always fun to watch. I will root for the Yankees' destruction, obviously, and their implosion once Soto signs somewhere else. And I'm fine with being wrong with that. I just have no desire to see Soto in an AL East uniform that much longer. I will go... God, this is tough. You have some bleak outlooks. Who's winning the East for you?
Right now, I have a dogfight between the Orioles and the Red Sox.
Okay, and then the Yankees and Rays for 3-4. Jays for last by that kind of mindset. Okay.
Yeah.
It will be interesting. I will stay worried about the rotation of the Rays until they're all unhealthy and on different teams.
Well, the Red Sox have a good minor league system, too.
I know they do.
Yeah.
But a lot of those guys still have to click,
Right.
and if they trade them, then there goes their minor league system.
Got a guy named Roman Anthony.
Yeah, he's a good outfielder.
Yeah.
Which is, a lot of people think they could trade an outfielder.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to the AL Central, folks. This was a slightly longer offseason outlook. We are East Coasters, so that's probably why we care so much and have so many details about this. Once we get to the NL Central and those teams out there, we'll be like a couple minutes, I'm sure. Again, I'll plug this each video at Pastime Podcast _ on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, and the Father and Son Pastime Podcast on Facebook. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us for all good things.